Hi, everybody. My name is Tate. I will be graduating from WSU here in December. I'm an intern here at PV, and it's about my third year coming to Breathe and PV as a whole. And I want to share some things with you that God has been teaching me through this past season or recently, and also how He's worked in my life. I'm not going to pour out my whole life story because there's a lot of details and we would be here for way too long. So I'm going to focus on my freshman year of college. During that time, I was living at home in Byron and going to school at the community college in Rochester. And I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with my life, but with some pressure from some friends and some people around me, I decided to sign up for a few classes. And then I just kept living a normal life outside of that. I was still hanging out with a couple of friends from high school, and during that year I was like, well, I'll hang out with these guys because I do really like them, but also I felt like I had no other option because all my other friends moved away. And those friends at the time weren't the best influences on me. They weren't living their lives as Christians would, and a lot of the times when we would hang out on weekends and stuff, we would be at a party or drinking or smoking or something like that. I didn't jump right off into the deep end, going into and pursuing all of those things, though. I often found myself having a mental battle of knowing these things are wrong, knowing that God has a purpose for me and this isn't it, but at the same time wanting to fit in and wanting to do those things with them. On top of those issues and stuff that we were doing, a lot of our conversations were filled with gossip, making fun of others, being mean to each other and other people, and talking about women in a not honoring way. So during this time of being at home and hanging out with those friends, I was also coming here to Winona to visit my girlfriend Carly. And only by God's grace and faithful to us, you'll see why in a second, it's that I can say that Carly and I have been married now for 2.5 years, or 2.5 months, excuse me. So I would come to visit Carly on the weekends and then head back home on Sunday or Monday to get back to work and classes and whatever else is going on. Despite being invited here to come to Breathe on Monday nights, I would choose just to go back home. On top of the things I was doing with my friends, I also had another major sin issue in my life. From middle school and continuing on into college, I had struggled with an addiction to pornography and other sexual sins that go along with it. I struggled with those things and hid them from Carly for the first 8 months that we were dating. On top of me hiding, partying, drinking, smoking, and looking at porn from Carly, I also hid the fact that I had cheated on her. I had been so ashamed, worried, and scared, I did what I thought was best to solve those feelings, which was to hide and lie about them for as long as I could. As you can imagine, those things were weighing really heavy on my heart and on my mind, and eventually they all came pouring out on a Sunday night when Carly sensed something was off and told me I had to fess up about anything and everything I had done. After that conversation, we were both in shambles and didn't really know what to do from there. So I ended up staying until Monday, the next day, and then I came here to Breathe. I remember it was during February, so naturally there was some relationships and dating messages happening, and it was about dating relationships and boundaries, which was obviously something I definitely needed to hear. There was something else I remember about that night here at Breathe and at PV. I remember seeing this guy and looking at him and thinking in my head, wow, I'd really like to be friends with that guy someday. Obviously, the weeks after that, there was a lot going on in my life and Carly's and stuff that we needed to work through for healing to take place. But coincidentally, there's also something happening in the life of that guy that I saw at church on that Monday night. A few weeks later, he gave his phone number to Carly, and she sent it to me saying he wanted me to have it just in case I ever needed anything. Immediately, once I read that text, I was like, no way. I had been waiting for years and years for some Christian friends to be in my life, and finally someone reached out. And then the next few times I came to Winona, I met up with that guy, and we hung out, and he was vulnerable with me about things he struggled with in his life. And it was such a relief to hear that I wasn't the only one who had been in my shoes before. On top of helping me with my sin problems, he was pouring into me and really encouraging me to move to Winona the next year. It definitely took some time to figure out how I was going to get here, but obviously I did. But moving to Winona and getting involved here in many different aspects of PV was one of the best decisions I ever made. I needed a strong Christian community around me, and I found that here at PV and at Breathe. Just recently, I was talking to that friend again, and he told me that the same night I saw him at church and thought how cool it would be to be his friend someday, The Lord was saying to him, you need to minister to that guy and pour into his life. So I'm so grateful that he took that step of obedience, because if it weren't for his influence on me, my life would be probably down some other path that I don't want to think about. I would love for you guys to take away 2 things from my story. Number 1, even a seemingly small act of obedience, such as reaching out to someone you have no idea who they are, can lead to things greater than you can even imagine. And number 2, God is working in your life, no matter if you feel it or not. He's always working.